Hey, welcome B-Siders to a brand new episode of my podcast. Thank you for joining me today, where I have another amazing guest coming on and sharing their life story and how music has impacted and changed their life. And this one's going to be a really good and juicy one, something you probably won't expect and I haven't really heard of before. So I can't wait to dive into that with my guest today. And yes, welcome, Avery. Thanks so much for coming and joining us today.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm really grateful.
Oh, thank you. It's going to be a really great conversation. I know it will be. So let's dive straight in. Before we do a quick introduction who you are, so people can get a bit of a feel for who's going to, talk to us today. And I've wrote a few points down, but please feel free to add anything that you feel is important after I've covered it, or correct me as well. I hope I don't get anything wrong, but you never know. So you are the CEO and founder of Inner Stillness, Outer Chaos podcast. I'm not a podcaster. Two thumbs up.
Love a good podcast. Yes.
Awesome. And you also the same of the Flow State membership, which you might have to explain a little bit more about after what that is. And you were a registered nurse who worked in ICU, which is amazing. Hats off to you. I admire anyone who can do that kind of thing. It's not, I'm running miles away when I see a needle, so there you go.
Yes.
And I mean, what you did was obviously very intense. You might want to share a little bit yourself, because I probably couldn't put it into words what you've been through, seen there, and experienced. And obviously that experience working as a registered nurse and in ICU has led you where you are today. So maybe just give us a bit of an overview what that is and how you got there, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. So I worked as a registered nurse in a variety of different ICUs for both adults and children for about a decade. And very early on, I noticed that the majority of the reasons why adults found themselves in the ICU were because of illnesses and diseases that were linked to chronic stress. So I knew that I had to get out of the reactive side of medicine and had to show people how to prevent themselves from getting into the ICU in the first place. And that means that they have to learn how to master their stress switch and manage both the internal and external sources of stress.
Mm. Need it now more than ever, because
Agreed.
I think the world is so stressed, it's literally going like this. Eventually it will snap.
Yes, hopefully snap and bounce back to where we want it to be. But absolutely, especially the last couple of years have just been
Oh.
so stressful for so many people in so many different ways. So
Mm-hmm.
it's just been a really interesting journey as somebody in the stress management space navigating these last couple of years.
I honestly don't know how nurses, doctors, anyone in that area does it. There must be, as I said, I don't think I can even imagine what's going on there. And then seeing what they do on a daily basis. I mean, their mental health must be, so do you actually help a lot of nurses as well? Is that something that comes up a lot for you?
Yes, absolutely. And I think it's because I understand some of the
Mm-hmm.
shared experience. And it's especially important when you are going through such traumatic experiences like the nurses and doctors and staff and the RTs and everybody at the ICU to have somebody that you don't have to explain the details to when you're explaining what's been happening. Because then you get caught up in the translation of things, and it's just really helpful to have somebody where you can say, yeah, we pushed 3 rounds of epi and coded this person, and we went through this and this, and you're just like, yeah, I know what all of that means. It just helps to have somebody like truly hear it, and that way you can really focus on your emotional experience rather than trying to translate.
Absolutely. Gosh, I hope there's more people like you out there. If there are, please put your hands up so we can actually share you with everybody, because it's really important. So thank you for doing that, and now being a nurse and now doing what you do. So I think it's really important. But we're here to talk about music. So
Yes.
I always ask the really generic questions to start these interviews off. And it's interesting to hear the answers. And most people go, yeah, very important. But music, importance in your life. How important is it?
It has been woven through every aspect of my life since I was a
Mm-hmm.
kid. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I started learning piano as a 4-year-old and learned a variety of different instruments over my life. I met my husband because we were playing in a band together. Music, just anytime I felt emotions stuck in my body, it seemed like the right song would come on the radio and there would just be like this outpouring of tears and ugly crying and whatever it was that I needed to release. And as a highly sensitive person, growing up in a world that is scared to feel, growing up in a highly analytical house, music really was my outlet to be able to express what I didn't feel safe expressing in other spaces.
Mm. Yes. 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 I can relate to so much. And I think my audience can relate to so much too. And that's the beauty of music. It's just there for you whenever you need it, for whatever situation you're in. Oh, and it's just such a trigger too. It can be such a schemy little thing sometimes, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. Sometimes it catches you off guard and releases something that you're just like, I wasn't ready to let that go.
Right? Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to count the instances where I thought, oh, I'll just go and have a shower, put some music on, and next thing I'm sort of crying in the shower because I'm like, oh my God, why?
Mm-hmm.
It just hits
Absolutely.
you, and sometimes totally unexpected. Has it ever happened to you as well?
Oh, yes. Yeah, absolutely. Um, One of the most notable times that this happened actually is a bit of a story. So I was working full-time 12-hour shift work in a pediatric ICU at the time. And Christmas morning, I was coming off the night shift,
Hmm.
and the charge nurse for the day comes up just to get a report for me quick. And she was like, oh, you do not look well. You look very sick. Please go home. I'll write you down as sick for tonight. Just feel better. And then I went home and I slept for 20 hours. And then the next day was 20 hours. And the day after that was 20 hours. And after 10 months of painful tests, lots of scary procedures, surgery to remove half my thyroid and a huge mass on it, I am now the proud owner of a physically limiting disability and a chronic illness. And I will never go back to work in the hospital ever again. It's just not possible. My body will not allow me to do that. And
Mm.
I was trying to reconcile this with myself because so much of my identity was tied up in the work that I did. It was very much my family, the people that I worked with,
Mhm.
because you get so close to people when you go through those kinds of experiences together. And when the pandemic hit, I had severe PTSD that really reared its ugly head. And I had these dreams of my colleagues just surrounded in these scenarios that I've been through with them. And they're like, where are you? Why aren't you helping us? And I was physically unable to do that. And so all of this is leading to the song. It's coming.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
then
go
I
for it.
was really just like in this space of like losing who I was, and I'm really just trying to hang on to the little bits of that person. And so growing up, my name was Heather. And all throughout that part of my life, my name was Heather. And it was when I listened to this song, I was out with the dog, just walking the dog for about 45 minutes away from the house. And this song came through my playlist again. The first time I heard it, I thought it was just this really sweet LGBTQIA love song. It's called She Used to Be Mine. And it's by Sarah Bareilles. It was written by her for the musical Waitress. And it just really talks about this loss. And I thought it was just this really sweet little song. And then I'm listening to the lyrics again more on the walk with the dog, and it lands that it's not a love song. It's about losing who you used to be. And then I am like ugly crying, barely able to stand or walk. And it's like, well, we got to walk home. So I'm just walking home. People are crossing the street and being like, oh, to stay away from me and my massive expression of emotion. And then when I got home, I started to really reflect more specifically on that loss and process that grief. And I do help people, and I was helping people process grief before this, but then I realized I never really allowed myself to get angry at that part of me that had gotten sick. So then I started writing that and writing it out, and just this really aggressive letter to that part of me. And then I realized part of it changed halfway through, that I was like, you got the anger out and that's fine, but this part of you deserves compassion just like the rest of you. And so it was in
Mm.
that moment, the same day that I heard that song, that it brought out so much of that experience, that I realized I had to change my first name. If I was able to move forward and not still feel this constant grief and loss of who I used to be and what I'm no longer capable of, I had to start fresh. And that night, when I told my husband, hey, I think I need to change my name, the PTSD dreams stopped. The anxiety got so much better. I felt like at home in my body again, like I had a purpose. And so it was really that song that released what needed to be opened so that I could dig into that and really process it all.
Wow. Yeah, that's, I don't really know what to say still. I mean, obviously we've chatted about this before, but it's still so amazing that one song can just release all this and help you turn your life around and make physical symptoms go away too. That's just
Mhm.
incredible.
Agreed. And I just think we are very quick, especially in the medical community, to discount the links between the emotional experience and the physical experience.
Mm,
And this
mhm,
is just very clear evidence for me that those are very much tied together for me.
mhm. Yes, 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 yes. And I agree with you. Um, I do believe and feel that there's a much, much deeper connection between the emotions and the physical than still a lot of doctors or health professionals think there is. And they're so quick to prescribe you tablets or pills or, go to this physio and whatever. And then you make yourself worse than you were before, but you're still not feeling better. So,
Mhm.
absolutely. But yeah, beautiful song too. I did have a listen to it, and yeah, um, I really recommend listening to it, everybody. It's a really, really beautiful song, and the lyrics are really awesome too. So, and like we all do with songs, we all take our own take on what it means to us.
Mhm.
So it's just nice to share a beautiful song like that with more people because it deserves to be shared. It's really, really nice song.
I'm so glad you think so. And
Yeah.
what I really like about that song, I mean, there's so many things, but
Mm.
one of the things that really stands out for me every time I listen to it again is that it really moves you through grief. It moves you through the stages of grief. It goes off like really wistful and tender. And then you can hear the anger come in and the frustration when she realizes that, like, this is not the life that she was thinking was going to be happening for her. And then at the end, it
Mm.
becomes so compassionate and tender again. So I think
Mm.
that really, like, that beautiful flow is something that a lot of us need to be
Mm.
guided through.
Yes. Yeah. Oh God, I can't believe just one song that's literally like what, 4 or 5 minutes tops can really do that. Whew.
I
Imagine if you
know.
have that with someone like you, combine that. Pooh, it's like it's gonna be like magic.
Yes.
Almost.
Yeah, it does. Certain songs for sure, and especially that one,
Hmm.
do feel like magic.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It'd be nice if we all could find at least 2 or 3 songs that would mean something similar or help us navigate us when we change, when we move on, because we're not staying the same ever, no matter what happens to us, even if we're healthy 100%. There's other things that happen in life. So having,
Mhm.
you know, songs that help us with the change in seasons or phases will be really good. So playlists keep coming up. They keep coming up. And I think it's really crucial to be more, what's the word, focused, I think, and intentional when you listen to music. So is that something you started doing before or after that incident with that song?
So before, actually,
Oh, okay.
I can't remember when I first started, probably high school. So like 2 decades ago, I started just creating playlists of songs that would help me move through an experience, to be able to
Mm-hmm.
give myself space to process in a way that was safe, and then help me come out of that. Because if we stay in that really deep, painful emotional space, we can really get stuck in that cycle and just really like circle around in there.
Mm.
But if we give ourselves the opportunity to be brought out, then we can actually move forward from that really emotional experience. So I have a number of playlists that
Mm-hmm.
move me through that kind of thing, in like between 6 to 10 songs generally is sort of the
Mm-hmm.
max. And it just, yeah, allows you to be all up in your feels and then experience that, process it, and then come back
Mm-hmm.
to the objective space where you can still
Mm-hmm.
see lots of beautiful things.
Yeah. Yep. That seems to be a really consistent advice that I hear a lot from my guests in general. When they have playlists, they're very specific, and a lot of the advice that comes as well is like you just said, don't allow yourself to feel the feels, but then move through it and don't linger. Very important, I think. Just to
Mm-hmm.
mention that again.
Yes, absolutely. And if
Mm.
anybody's looking for a really good song to help bring them out,
Mm-hmm.
one of my top ones is Broken and It's Beautiful by Kelly Clarkson.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Yep.
it just really talks about how, like, I don't need somebody to fix me. I don't need something to like make anything different. I'm broken and still beautiful. There's nothing
Mm.
wrong with what I'm feeling right now. And it's like really jumpy and poppy. And my dog and I have danced around the living room multiple times to this song. And you just can't help but smile when you're done.
Oh, yes. Yep. We'll definitely put that out there and on our playlists. Excellent. It's actually funny. I just thought another person I love listening to when that kind of happens is Pink, because she has a lot of really powerful songs that recognize and acknowledge, yeah, you feel like shit. You don't feel right. You feel broken. You feel like a weirdo. And that's fine. Feel it. But you know what? You're not that person. You're still beautiful, even though with all these edges and then cracks. Now let's move
Mm-hmm.
on.
Yes.
So
Oh, I
that's,
agree.
yeah, she's amazing in that. So
I agree. One of my favorite songs of hers
mm-hmm.
is All I Know So Far.
Oh no, not checked that one out yet.
Oh, you're going to love that one. You're
Okay.
absolutely going to love it. And it really just talks about how, like, at a certain point, he's got to say, like, all right, I give in. Let's just ride this roller coaster and release the expectations and know that, like, the only way out is through. We just
Mm-hmm.
have to give ourselves compassion as we go through the journey and embrace whatever comes.
Mm, yes. I was actually just thinking, is there like a male artist that's kind of really out there and majority of people know that would have songs like that? I'm really struggling, so if anyone has any suggestions, please let me know. Because it seems like there's
Yes.
a lot of women that really dive into that. Is it because we are more connected to emotions? Probably. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I think toxic masculinity plays a big role in that for sure.
Mm.
Um, there's a couple that I can think of.
Okay.
James Bay is one.
Hmm.
He's got a really unique sound and he's not afraid to get up in the field.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's another one. He's not as popular now, but his music still definitely relates. It's got a bit of an edge to it.
Mm-hmm.
It's Ryan Starr, and his song "Breathe" is
Mm-hmm.
one of my ultimate favorites. It's on multiple playlists.
Right. I'll have to go and check him out. I don't think I've heard of him before, so yeah,
He
I'll
was a
have a
smaller
listen.
artist.
Doesn't
I want
matter.
to say when I was in high school. So again, like it's been a little
Okay.
while.
Yeah, well, I'm always open to hear about artists I've never heard before, because obviously
Mhm.
my music taste is pretty mainstream, I think, which is not a bad thing. There's nothing wrong with
Mm-mm.
that. But
No.
there's obviously other artists out there who write beautiful songs, and I always love to discover them. So yeah.
It's one of my favorite things about all these streaming platforms is you can just pick an artist that you like and then do like that artist's radio, and then you get introduced to so many other artists that are just waiting for you to fall in love with their music.
Yeah, that's the good thing about these like Spotify and all that. Absolutely amazing. I mean, how did we do it in the old days when we just had radio? You were kind of only exposed to what they wanted you to listen to. So
yeah, or we made mixtapes for each other.
Oh, don't start me on that. I still have them somewhere, and it's like a whole box. I used to do it with my cousin. We made mixtapes for each other. So we did it like a radio show. We were like song, and we came on, we spoke, and then another song came on. So it was like our own private radio channel almost. It's really cool.
Oh my gosh, that's so fun. I like that so much. I've never did that, but I wish I did.
Yeah, it was because sometimes we didn't see each other. We used to see each other a lot, and then we didn't see each other for maybe a few days, and we were like, let's record some tapes, like 90 minutes. That's quite a bit of work to put into, but it was so much fun. It was so much fun.
Oh, I agree.
We got a bit off track here, but anyway, it's fun.
Yes, agreed.
I don't know how you would do that these days.
Oh, well, I think you can share your playlists.
Yeah, you can share the playlist, right? But
you couldn't have your own radio show so much.
Yeah.
I guess if you had a podcast.
Yeah, you can probably do it somehow. Anyway, that's a whole nother idea for something else. Wow. So, in your work that you do you use music to help others? Is that something you try to integrate and suggest to your clients?
Absolutely. So in the flow state membership that you mentioned earlier, I do have playlists that I curate for people. And it has different things. It's also the emotional processing playlist, but then it's also like, you just want a little bit more energy. You want to have a little dance party. Here's some really good pick me up kind of music, and just so many different kinds of playlists in there for sure. In the yoga classes that I teach, I also curate playlists based on the emotional experience that we're trying to move through with these different poses and the whole sort of posture sequence, I guess. So I'll share those with people as well so they can play them on their own space. But yeah, music is absolutely something that I encourage people to dive into. We do art journaling once a month where you do some journaling and it helps you with some prompts to get some things going, and then you just create and just don't even care what you're working on, and you mix whatever colors and chalk and pastels and markers, and you just really play with stickers and glitter and all of the things, and you just get it to create. But a lot of times people get too much in their head and they start to worry about, oh, but what does it look like? Is this good enough? Am I doing it right? And so partway through, the teacher that taught me how to do this, and that now I facilitate it in the same way, is we get up and have a feel-good dance party. And so you just, once you start getting up into your head too much, exactly, and then you just like, get it all out and just like really feel it so that you can turn off that critical brain and get back into the space where you can hold space for yourself.
Yeah. Amazing. I had no idea you did all this stuff on the side apart from what, through your nursing bit. It's amazing.
It's really fun. I've actually been doing it full time since 2018. And I, although wished I could have helped my colleagues during certain moments of the pandemic, I helped in my own way. So I have just like fully dove into this experience and I'm enjoying every minute of it.
Amazing. I love that you do playlists for yoga and then give it to the people who go home and do it. And then the art bit. It's just, I love that. It's just so creative and it's also kind of almost easy in a way because you can just grab the songs, hand them over, say, there you go, It feels there's more and more this type of, I don't know what you call it, more people dive into the using music as a supporting tool for so many different ways. I mean, like I said, for the art bit, that's probably not something I would have initially thought about, that if you just want to be creative and draw something, that you listen to music beforehand. It makes sense, absolutely, but then connecting the two, yeah, I love that all this stuff comes out. It's so good.
I agree. And I think it's these things that we need someone to show us that this is an option, because sometimes we get too, like, with the blinders on. And so I didn't even think about this as an option until I went to my first art journaling class and met one of my many mentors. And when she brought it out and we talked about it after multiple times to other coffees, and I was just like, I just needed to hear this because
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even know it was a possibility. So I think the more that we explore and the more that we participate in conversations like this, it just gives
Mm-hmm.
us new ways to fulfill our lives more.
Yes. And yeah, it's and especially after this pandemic that we've just had, we need to move away from this whole analytical thinking. I think that's just driving us insane.
Mm-hmm.
So we need more people like yourself and, you know, other people, guests I had on my podcast, to just share what they do. And this is why I'm so glad I'm able to do this, because it's so important. And we need to know about people like yourself who offer all this, so we can actually think about, is this something I want to do, and try out and see if it helps, because you don't know until you try.
That's it. And so part of this journey is learning how to trust yourself again. Because when we're
Mm,
in this analytical space, we need to know, okay, is this going to work? What are the pros and cons? What are the risks? Is this going to be worth my time? We get too much into that space and we talk ourselves out of a lot of stuff. But
mm, yeah,
learning how to trust yourself again and
yeah.
just saying, like, I'm going to fly by the seat of my pants because I have good pants. I can figure this out.
Yeah, absolutely. And in a way, this is, I just want to say this on a personal note. I think you were kind of a really beautiful reminder for myself today, because I had a lot of stuff
Oh,
floating in my head that I was debating about, if I should do it, if I shouldn't do it, how do I do it? And now I feel like, well, you know, if it's been in your head and your heart for such a long time, just go and do it the way you can and figure the rest out along the way. So I think the timing is perfect. Thank you.
I'm so glad that we could hold that space today. Thank you for
Yes.
sharing that.
Oh no, thank you for being this lovely reminder, and, you know, the little nudge that we all need sometimes.
We
Awesome.
all need people in our life like that.
Oh God, of course we do. And you never know, maybe someone who listens to this needed to hear exactly what you had to say today, and embraces something they've been pondering up in our heads for too long, and then lets it go down to the heart. That'd be
Yes.
awesome. Right. Now, my favorite question of every episode is coming up, and it's this. If you would have to describe your life and or business at this moment in time by using one song, which one would you pick and why?
Ooh, okay. So the song that I would pick, since we've already said All I Know So Far by Pink, I'm just looking it up on my phone for the artist because I can't quite remember her name. It's called You're Gonna Be Okay.
Okay.
And it, like, if you need a good cry, friends, this is the song for you. It's by Jen Johnson and it's called You're Gonna Be Okay. And I I shared one of the many difficult experiences that I've had in my life, and it's
Mhm.
just one of uh, what a lot of people tell me is a very unfair amount. And through all of that, I keep saying to myself, one more time. So when life throws one more thing at me, I say, okay, one more time. I'm going to get up one more time. And this song really just summarizes that resilience to hold space for it, grieve it, cry, but say one more time.
Mm. Yes. Whew. Yeah. To a certain level, I can relate.
I think all of us
um,
have that kind of struggle in our life. And
mhm,
I think it's really
absolutely.
important to not compare trauma because someone will always have it worse than you. But that doesn't mean that you don't deserve to heal what you've been through.
Mm,
So give
yes.
yourself that grace.
Yes, yes, yes. And one thing I do notice, and I would love to hear your thoughts on that before, and it doesn't necessarily have to do with music, but the whole feel your feels and, let yourself ugly cry. One thing I wish for is, and I think we're kind of slowly getting there, is that the male humans among us accept that their emotions are valid too, that they need to cry, that they need to be a little bit more vulnerable and allow it to happen. Us women, we're probably more emotional. We can allow that. But I still see it so often that men think they have to be still this strong person. And that really upsets me because why? You're a human being. Your gender doesn't matter.
I agree.
So, yeah. So that's just something, when we talk about this, oh, you just ugly cry, that goes for you men, blokes out there as well. Don't think you're excluded from this. You're included.
I
So
agree.
listen up.
Yes. And I think a lot of it comes from labeling our emotions as good, bad, strong, weak, positive, negative. Whereas we need to start seeing our emotions as sabotaging or serving, because anger can absolutely serve us. It can also sabotage us, of course, but it can serve us. Sadness can serve us. And so when we step back and look at it from a spectrum rather than polarities as either good or bad, but we can see it across the spectrum of sabotaging or serving, it allows us to see emotions in a different way. And so with the men that come through my programs and offerings, they, especially if they identify as being highly sensitive to start with, the community is such an important aspect of that, because it also allows them to see other men identify emotions as sabotaging and serving. So for any person that identifies as male presenting, if you really feel like you need to express an emotion, find a way that works for you. Not all emotions have to be expressed outwardly in front of other people, but see what you can do to bring that back into the serving side of space.
Beautiful. Yeah. Beautifully said. Thank you. That's, yeah. And it obviously needed to be said today.
I think so.
Timing of things is always interesting and perfect. Oh, that was such a good chat. And I could actually felt myself getting a bit emotional too at some point. But yes, that's why I love these chats. They always bring out so many good things, so many juicy little golden nuggets, and all thanks to music. And I say it, and I will keep saying it, music is like this thin red line that connects us all in some shape or form and can make our world better if we only let it. And if we don't, if we're a bit more conscious about it. So yes, and your story has definitely shared the impact it can have if we open our ears a little bit more.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for holding this space and creating this space, because I think your conversation around these topics is so important. So I'm just so grateful to be a part of that.
Oh, thank you. You're going to make me emotional again.
I have a habit of doing that.
After.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm sorry. I'll hold space for that and give you a virtual hug.
Yes. Oh, beautiful. No, I always totally appreciate every person that has a story to share like yourself and is open to share it, which creates hope and creates encouragement. And, that's kind of all I want to share on my podcast, that you're not alone, even if we do feel it at times. And there's always someone or something there that can help us through tough times. And you are a beautiful example of that. So thank you for sharing your story today with us all.
Oh, thank you so much.
Right. I think that was a beautiful way to end this episode. I hope you enjoyed it, B-Siders. I know I absolutely did. And yes, I'm going to leave it at that. I'm not going to say much more. I'm just going to leave you with this and keep telling you to keep dancing and keep on rocking. And I will be in your earbuds in my next episode. Until then, you take good care, B-Siders, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.